While not the case for most players, sometimes you just want to vertically invest into a unit. So today let's talk about which agents Mindscapes will give you the best bang for your buck, and because we will be looking at account value, Mindscapes such as Hugo's Mindscape 2, which are really massive for himself, but also only for himself, will not count and hence also not be included in this list. Hence, a special shout out goes to Hugo's M2 as well as Yejuan's M2 for being absolutely great, just only for themselves. Let's begin with Mindscape 1, and the first in line is Dialan. Her Mindscape 1 grants the entire team 15% all attribute restred, while under her buff overwhelmingly positive. And in addition, her positive review generation is increased as well. While the usefulness of the increased positive review generation will vary from team to team, it grants a flat out 15% damage gain against neutral targets, and since she fits into virtually every team that features any attacker or raptor unit, that just makes her M1 extremely strong. However, it also has a negative side. The attribute restred is tied to her buff after all, and that buff is locked behind her additional ability. Which means you don't really have a Mindscape 1 at all if slotted, for example, into a Miyabi team, which is why it is the weakest Mindscape on this list and hence the first to be mentioned. Next up is Infinity Nikki. Not a Mindscape, but instead today's video sponsor, which you can vertically invest into if you prefer that as well. Infinity Nikki version 2.0 is here, and it is not just a dress-up game. It is now a true open world with eye-catching storytelling, offering larger lands to explore and immersive brand new stories to tell. With their continuous and ongoing optimizations, Infold Games has massively improved Infinity Nikki over the last year, and the game has been rebirthed into a next-generation open-world experience. Step into Itzaland today, where diverse races and cultures come to life, and experience a brand new approach to both exploration and combat. Use the Sticky Claw to move rapidly throughout the world and explore Spira, a bright and playful land with snail shell houses and glowing mushroom bridges. Or maybe transform Nikki into a towering giant to explore the Elderwood Forest, a massive jungle filled with colossal plants. Now Nikki can use a brand new weapon, archery. Archery is the core of the new combat experience, featuring unique energy, charge and shield breaking systems that enable flexible skill-based battles. Freely choose your teammates and adjust your team composition, be it for offense or defense. And while I don't want to spoil too much, let me just say so much. Nikki is no longer just a wandering soul, she might become the successor of the Saintess. What are you waiting for? Use my link in the description or pinned comment and download Infinity Nikki version 2.0 today. Infinity Nikki is also introducing 2 commercial 5-star outfits. The Behind the Prayer and Born Flawless outfits, which come with grappling and archery respectively. In addition to these outfits, explore the world and you can get a free 5-star set of clothes, 1 free 5-star outfit and 4 free 4-star outfits. Next up is Alice. Her Mindscape 1 effectively reduces the enemy defense by 20% permanently. Because this is an attack modifying debuff on the enemy, this affects the entire team, and due to anomaly teams being played with, well, 2 anomaly characters usually and not only 1, this is a massive damage boost. This Mindscape becomes even stronger as many deadly assault buffs often come with Death Shred paired, and stacking Death Shred is just inherently really good. If now paired with Jane's Mindscape 2 and Nicole, this entire team just becomes a monster with a massive 75% Death Shred at its base. The negative side to this Mindscape, if you can even call it that, is usually only that Alice and other anomaly units often prefer pen ratio in slot 5, which now becomes a worse choice. But I mean, just build physical damage or attack instead, it's really no biggie. Astra's M1 allows for a much earlier ultimate on her, which in turn might grant up to 2 additional chain attacks, which again might give you some additional decibels as well, but most importantly she grants up to 18% all attribute rest shred, and simply due to how flexible she is, that makes it just a very good and also generic Mindscape. Jufufu's Mindscape 1 makes her easier to build, and with her best teammates, those being Yetari, Yijuan, Manato and Evelyn, but not vice versa, dealing most of the damage during stun, an additional 35% stun damage is just really good. In addition, it also becomes better the lower the base stun damage multiplier of the enemy is. Means it is a much better Mindscape versus, for example, the Defiler, and has slightly less value, for example, against marionettes. We also can say something very similar about Trigger, except that it increases her stun damage multiplier buff from 25 to 55%. And because most supports grant some kind of attribute rest shred and not a stun damage multiplier, this just stacks really well with those. However, while this is very strong out of stun, it massively loses value during stun and effectively shares the same problem as Jufufu does. Additionally, her Mindscape 1 provides also more days and can also be of additional value for anomaly builds. But because of that, as well as Trigger's stun damage multiplier also applying out of stun, Trigger's Mindscape 1 is in my opinion better than Jufufu's is, and hence also higher in the list. And lastly, we have Lucia's Mindscape 1, and it is yet another one that is just really good. And in my opinion, probably the strongest Mindscape 1 in the game. Or well, at least it has the potential to become it. It mainly depends on how much use you can get out of the increased 5% decibel generation, which is a heavily underestimated stat and much stronger than it might seem at first glance. But even if you cannot make great use out of it, this Mindscape will still grant a flat out 18% all attributes rest shred, which is just an effective 18% raw damage gain against neutral targets and about 13% against elemental weakness. While weaker than, for example, Trigger's M1 without the decibel gen, when making proper use of it, this Mindscape is just disgustingly good. Next up are the Mindscape 2s, and our first contestant for the best Mindscape 2 is Seed. Her Mindscape 2 provides 20% of shred not only for herself but also to her Vanguard, in addition to increasing her EX special damage. The Death Shred does not only pair extremely well with essentially any other attacker, but especially with Orphe, this is just an incredibly strong Mindscape and one of the better ones in the game. Well, one of the better ones that is not only for their own damage, that is. Again, we are looking at the account value, and Mindscapes that affect not only their own agents' damage, but the entire teams are just a better investment in terms of longevity for your account. Next up is Alice. Again, her Mindscape 2 is just incredibly good. Not only does it grant herself polarized assaults with every ultimate she uses, but also increases assault and assault disorder damage by a further 15%. Team-wide, that is. There are really no real cons to this Mindscape outside of it being much better for herself than for the team, which is also why it is the first in the list, but it also just works so well with Jane's M2. So let's talk about it. Jane's Mindscape 1 is already very good, but in my opinion just not flexible enough to make it onto this list. Her Mindscape 2, however, is a flat out 15% of shred for assaults and an additional 50% crit damage for assaults as well. As you might have noticed, I said assaults and not her assaults. This effect applies to all assaults triggered by the team. Her Mindscape 2 effectively allows Jane to be run as an assault support, and that makes Mindscape 2 Jane one, if not the best partner for Alice, while in addition also granting herself a flat out 30% damage gain, making this Mindscape the highest Mindscape 2 damage gain in the entire game. Outside Yugo, that is. But not the best Mindscape 2, since it essentially is limited to herself and Alice, as Piper just really wants Vivian and does not have space for Jane. So, which Mindscape is better than Jane's Mindscape 2? Yuzua's is. Not only grants it 15% damage bonus and anomaly build up to the team, which in itself isn't actually even that strong, but it also allows for an additional chain attack on any other unit every 20 seconds. If spaced correctly, that makes up for a total of 8 additional chain attacks per fight, and not only is that a lot more anomaly, damage and days, but much more importantly up to an additional 2000 decibels, which can effectively guarantee you an additional ultimate you otherwise wouldn't have gotten. In the case of Vivian, it also makes managing her flight feathers just even easier. Technically, Mindscape 2 user also allows for some really funny Evelyn plays, but I mean, that's off meta. I just really like doing that, it's really fun. Anyway, with that out of the way, we can get to the last Mindscape on this list, and by far also the most expensive one, Vivian's Mindscape 6. Vivian's Mindscape 6 is funny. While in theory it is somewhere between a 40 to 60% raw damage gain, which already is really good, the real power this Mindscape provides is front-loading all of your team's anomaly damage. Since all endgame modes in ZZZ are time-based, this Mindscape is just incredibly stupid. However, it also depends on your other teammates and their investment, as it effectively just front-loads up to 5 blooms. The more Mindscapes you have on them and the higher their investment on your, for example, Alice or Jane and the likes, the better Vivian and also her Mindscape 6 becomes. Hence, while it is still, at least in my opinion, one of the best Mindscape 6s in the game, if not the best, it really only starts shining when you already have massively whaled for your other units, at which point this Mindscape really is just a win 2 minutes earlier Mindscape. And with that, we are at the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, leave me a comment on which Mindscapes you have on your account or plan on getting, and join the Discord. A special thanks to my YouTube and Patreon members who make this content possible. If you wish to support me, you will find a link to my Patreon in the description, or click the join button right below this video. And as always, I appreciate all of you and wish you a great day. Peace!